What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Binge Empire podcast. This is Brian here with my co-hosts, producer Dave and ya boy Chase. And today we are covering season 2, episode 5 of the Amazon Prime original series based on the video game of the same name, Fallout. Today's episode 5 is going to be entitled The Wrangler. And before we get going, a little bit of housekeeping. We are the Binge Empire podcast. We also have another podcast feed called The Core, which covers all things Apple TV Plus. Dave and I are a member of the overarching podcast network called Bingetown TV, which I am repping here with my sweatshirt. Chase is actually just a tag along here because he is our Fallout SME, but we love him all the same. There are 5 other hosts besides me and Dave, so we've been doing this for over 5 years. Check us out here on the Binge Empire podcast feed, as well as The Core. We've covered a million shows. I implore you to check out our library. And oh, by the way, we have a blossoming Discord community. So if you want to talk TV, whether it be Fallout or anything else, go check us out. We should have the links in the description, but it's 2026 now. You guys can find us Discord/Bingetown TV. Whatever. All right, so that's the spiel. We have an episode 5 to get into entitled The Wrangler. We were talking a little bit before we got into it. Chase, you said this is one of the highest rated episodes on IMDb, which checks out because I was in the middle of watching it. I was like, wow, this is some big stuff we're getting into. I think this is probably the biggest lore dump that we've gotten in season 2. Definitely some progression through the flashbacks with Coop and Robert House. I think that was all some pretty unexpected stuff. Maybe not entirely unexpected, but I really loved that conversation. Robert House, I think, revealed a layer to him that I wasn't expecting. I saw him as a sinister villain. He might still reveal yet another layer and might be that, but it seems like he might just be a schemer. But I loved this episode. I was glued to my TV. Aside from the flashbacks, we also got some good stuff with Lucy and the ghoul. We see I think he's referred to as the snake oil merchant. That's at least what I have him in my notes. So it was good to see him again. Some progression with Norm, and of course Hank. So I thought this was a really, really strong episode, perhaps my favorite of the season so far. What say you, Popcorn Chase?
Well, to give you an idea, this episode is rated 8.8, and it's only second on IMDb ratings to the season finale from season 1. So, it's only the second day it's been out. I don't know how the ratings work. It could go up, maybe it could go down a little, but it's definitely one of the stronger episodes. We got a ton of great lore, which I think, a lot of stuff, and we get a lot of questions answered. Maybe that we had about what's going on with House, what's going on with Vault-Tec, what's going on with Barbara. And I was surprised. I will say there were some things I thought were a little strange, like earlier in the season, and I'm glad we got some answers finally.
Yeah.
Just give this show some 9s. We might as well start throwing some 9s in here. 8.9 and 8.8. What are we doing, guys? Fallout has been great. I have to say this. I watched the episode and it felt like this was honestly one of my favorite episodes of the series. So that rating absolutely makes sense. I love this episode. It's like you said, B-Toms, the layer that we get with Robert House was so unexpected. And that whole conversation, I was just sitting there, just eating it up. I loved every second of that. Just so much goodness all around in every plot point. We're advancing all of them very well. And I was super excited to hop on this podcast. Not that I am not usually, but this one I was extra excited to hop on for because I just feel like we're going to have a good discussion and just gush over this episode that we all seem to really enjoy.
Agreed. So why don't we just get into it? We do have, of course, our buckets, Lucy and the ghoul. We have our flashbacks. We have Norm's buds, which is what I've been calling them in my notes. And then we do get a little bit of Hank and the snake oil salesman. So why don't we start with just Lucy and the ghoul in our present day timeline? And perhaps it fit narratively, but the one thing that I felt a little robbed of was they got out of that sticky situation with the 3 death claws very easily. I was
100%.
hoping for a little bit of a skirmish. We didn't get it. Dog meat bolts for the door, and they just kind of follow him under the fence. I was fine with it. It makes sense, but I kind of wanted more.
It was 100% it sucked to start the episode with that because you had texted us prior and said it was a really good episode, and like I hop in and I'm like ready to watch this showdown between 3 Deathclaws and Lucy and the Ghoul. It hits the intro, and then it's sunrise in the same area, but there's people now, and the Deathclaws are kind of still there. That was easily the worst part of the episode, and that's probably going to be my only complaint of the episode. I agree with you. It just didn't make sense that all of a sudden we're faced with 3 Deathclaws. Dogmeat makes a run to a door, and then all of a sudden, it's morning or afternoon and things are lively. So my only complaint, I really do wish we saw the Deathclaw fight or maybe a little bit more on how they get out. I don't think it's going to be one of those things where it's worth coming back to show us like in a flashback, oh, like this is how they escape. Like it just feels like they were just trying to move us along. So a little disappointed in that. But again, that will probably be my only harshest critique of the episode is I just hated that we didn't really see that full conclusion, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a few times in the show where we've had like a time jump from one thing happening to where it's just all of a sudden either night or day, just to kind of move the story along. So obviously, we didn't get what we were all hoping for. But, to Coop's point or the Ghoul's point, in order to kill those things, you need more than a gun, right? You need maybe a fat boy, maybe something bigger, right?
Right.
So it's, I don't think they were ready to fight, so it made sense that they ran. But we got to see a little bit of the town and what the existing area of New Vegas looks like, and I thought that was pretty cool to kind of give us some life finally, because we were all left kind of thinking maybe it's just completely vacant. But fortunately, we have some bars, some shops.
Little general store there.
Yeah.
So I will say about the Deathclaws, they're still a part of the plot, because whether they were put there or not, they seem to be guarding something, but no human activities where those Deathclaws are patrolling. Lucy even asks, were they always there? And he says, nah, that's a little bit new. And he also says a little bit of this lore dump. He says, I've been looking all over for these management, these special vaults that we've been hearing about, us, the audience. And he says, I've found several of them. They're scattered all over the US. I've never found one in Vegas. So that obviously kind of gives us a little bit of information as to why the Ghoul, his interests were aligned in Vegas. He is sensing that maybe his wife and kid is going to be there. And just maybe that's a little, go ahead.
And to add to that, he also explains that the other vaults were empty, though. So
right,
we don't know if they were evacuated, if they were killed, and like if something went wrong in their plan and they just had the total meltdown kind of situation. So we don't know exactly why they were empty, but definitely an important part. And again, just loving all this lore that they're dropping. So anything that connects all the dots a little bit more, I'm here for.
Yeah, and to your point, B-Toms, like the Deathclaws are going to be a big part of the story still, because they're obviously on top of something, or something is hiding. And obviously all signs lead to Hank being there with the Vault Tech, crowd chambers with Coop's wife and his daughter, Janie.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we've seen Hank go around. I wouldn't be surprised if this was his doing, if he found a way to bring Deathclaws into that main area to kind of protect himself, to stop other people from getting in. And, maybe, this will get some backstory there for how that ended up happening. But I think, I wouldn't be surprised if this was Hank's doing.
Definitely. And I would feel deprived as an audience, as a viewer, if we don't get some sort of firefight involving one of the Deathclaws. I guess we saw it in the flashback. I want to see the Ghoul and or Lucy like go toe-to-toe with one of them. So I think that's definitely still a very real possibility. But like you guys said, we wake up the next morning, whatever, and the Ghoul says, hey, Lucy, you're still addicted to drugs. You're going to go to the general store. You're going to get this thing called a dick doll. And she says, well, where are you going to go? And he says, I'm going to go get drunk. I'm going to get a drink. So he goes to the bar and does not have the time of day for this poor barkeep who was just trying to be nice, trying to spark up some conversation with him. He says, shut your trap. But then we get this little Lucy, I don't know, subplot where she sneaks into this general store, and I guess she's still a little high on something because she's feeling herself. She sneaks in through the back. I guess what prompts it is she doesn't have enough caps to buy the addict doll, which has clearly been jacked up in price. So she just kind of swipes the addict doll. and then she swipes the power fist for good measure, and then she has this standoff with the guy. He was a shady character in his own right, but Goody Two Shoes Lucy decides to take this guy out because he had the gall to catch her stealing. And, I could have written the line, and I'm not very creative like that. A woman walks in and says, "Who are you?" And she says, "I don't know," because Lucy is even losing track of herself and her moral righteousness. But this was just a little development for her, saying, and we've been touching on it, the ghoul is starting to rub off on her equally as much as she maybe is rubbing off on the ghoul. And I guess I'll defer to Chase. Are any of that a dick doll? Was that in the games? The power fist, was that like a dope weapon in the games, or is this just show?
No, so a dick doll is one of the, I guess, treatments you could take. Another drug, I guess, but it's one of the good ones to help you get rid of any like withdrawal symptoms from taking drugs in the game. And the power fist is another really cool weapon, kind of like this super sledge that we saw a couple episodes back. That is like this. I would say it's also something that was probably used during the war by like people in these in the trenches down in there, but I really don't know the full backstory to it. But yeah, it's one of the weapons from the game, so it was cool to see that just like sitting on a shelf. And yeah,
I know one of our friends who watches the show, also named Dave, has had complaints in regards to Lucy under under the influence of drugs, and he hasn't been crazy about it. And I feel like I haven't talked to him fully about the episode yet, but I feel like Lucy killing this guy, maybe for the other Dave, I don't think he'll enjoy it because he feels like Lucy is losing herself a little too quickly, maybe, I think is the way he kind of described it. And it obviously gets completely exacerbated here by her actually ending someone's life. Well, I guess we're under the impression that I'm assuming he's dead. I know there may be some questions, but I think he's dead, and Lucy's obviously going to have to come face to face with that. So I think one of the maybe complaints of someone that has been watching that I've heard of is Lucy going down this rabbit hole a little too quickly. I'm fine with the cop-out answer of just like the drugs kind of just enhancing her feelings of just untouchability, and just because sure, when she comes out of this this influence of drugs, she might sober up and she could go back to what we know her as. But I don't think of it as a problem personally. I've kind of enjoyed her being on drugs. I thought it's been funny, but I know it seems to be a complaint, at least within our friend group. I don't know what the majority of people think, but I can kind of see that her decline is getting pretty quick. But we're moving. The show's moving. Like, we're already in Vegas, so we need to kind of get these plots going. So I personally still, again, don't have a problem with it, but I guess I understand where the complaints are coming from, that she just all of a sudden is now like killing people when she's been so remorseful in the past. So I again, no issues from me.
That's an interesting one, because the quick trigger finger, I'll call it, was that influenced by the drugs, or has she turned kind of that much into the survivalist that she is, just like kind of killing people in cold blood? I would lean it's a little bit of both. Like, the drugs were still playing an influence on her. As far as that criticism, Lucy on drugs, the comedy beats have been working for me, and it seems like they flushed it out of her system as of this episode. So if we only get like 1.5, 2 episodes of Lucy on drugs, I'm fine with that. That has worked for me. But I do see the criticism of maybe her downturn is happening too fast. But at the same time, that's kind of the point of the show and the point of the games, is that you got to do some stuff to survive in the wasteland, whether you like it or not. I mean, Maximus has said it just last episode, who, by the way, we don't see Maximus in this episode, so looking forward to that in the next one. But he says, I don't want to do these things. They just happen upon me, and I'm put in these situations where I have to do these things. So, I see the criticism. I haven't felt it to that extent. It's certainly not detracting from the show for me.
Yeah, I think from that standpoint too, like, you have to make decisions in the games all the time. Maybe you need to steal stuff. You don't have the caps. Maybe you need to, shoot somebody who might be a threat to you, but isn't necessarily like trying to kill you on purpose. And so, I think in this scene, like we've kind of been seeing Lucy trending this way.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of happening for a couple episodes. So for me, I'm not that worried about it, but I can understand the complaints, especially because some of the scenes are a little bit goofy, a little bit silly. And they have that like comedic effect, but you don't want to see a character just turning this way just for comedy.
Right.
Right.
But I really think she's going to have like, she's having a lot of self-discovery here too. And understanding who she is in the wasteland. It's no longer who she is, in the vault. And so for me, I'm fine with it. I thought it was a really funny scene. I thought it was a good point too. Is like she says, "I'm going to maim you."
Yeah.
She's not trying to kill this
Yeah.
guy.
Right.
So clearly, like things just go wrong without her, intentions being that way.
Yeah, she gave him plenty
kind
of
similar to Maximus.
she gave him plenty of warning too, like don't touch that gun. You touch that gun.
Yeah.
So she was
I also like the exchange. Are you Sonny? He's like, no, he left town. So that's definitely not Sonny in the trash can, like all bloody. That's it. You're telling me that's not Sonny. So this guy, like, I don't want to say had it coming, but he was a shady character who also reached for the gun. So let's, nobody was innocent in this, but Lucy is definitely succumbing to the wasteland.
And she's a killer.
That's kind of a point of
She's
the show.
officially a killer now.
So while this is all going on, the ghoul is having some emotional flashbacks in the bar, and then Lucy pukes up because she takes the Addictol and then finds the ghoul. But let's rewind because we kind of got to get the snake oil salesman into the mix. There's one scene with Hank where he is still running his experiments. Well, I guess the salesman is kind of skipping into Vegas on the wake of acquiring this fusion core from Thaddeus. So he makes his way to Vegas and has a hot date with a robot. But before he can get lucky, Hank is kind of creepily there and knocks him out and abducts him. And as we know, Hank is running these experiments, runs it on the salesman, and seemingly it works. So I guess us as the viewer are led to believe that the mind control chips can get juiced up to 100 on the ghouls. The ghouls can just take the heat. So that's kind of where my head was at. What I was not expecting was the show to reveal that Barb and Janie, Coop's family, are in the same facility as Hank is doing these experiments, which makes sense, but I didn't think they were just kind of going to pan over with the camera and give us that reveal. That came out of total left field, but it also gives Hank a very strong bargaining chip, knowing that the ghoul is in custody of Lucy. So a lot happened here. And then, just continuing on, we get this standoff with the salesman who is there on behalf of Hank and kind of throws down the deal and says, hey, Hank is up to some things. He would rather Lucy be safe in the vault. So essentially, ghoul, you take Lucy back to the vault and, Hank will keep your family safe in cryo and won't wake them up, won't disturb them, whatever. And after all, that is what the ghoul has been after, his family. So he takes the deal. Although I will say it's through gritted teeth, maybe. He does seem to have some remorse. But this is what he was always after. So this was a lot. What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I think this is the first time that I've seen the ghoul look ashamed of himself.
Yeah.
I think every other time in the show, he's felt like he was making the right choices, and he really didn't have any shame or remorse about killing people or doing whatever he needed to do to survive. And he's obviously been drinking a lot. He drinks even more during that scene, and you can tell he's really like. I mean, the acting is incredible. Like this, he just looks so upset with himself, but he feels hopeless almost. Like there's nothing he can do. This is the only choice he can make because family is a fucked up thing, and he needs to do whatever he can to get his family back. Even if he's had this great time traveling through the wasteland, getting closer to Lucy, kind of learning from each other on what's right and wrong, he still in the end makes this decision. So for me, a little bit upsetting, not surprising though.
Completely agreed. I've been saying on the podcast that I really want to see the ghoul finally make that step over into maybe what we consider good, or at least a little bit better than what he has been in the past. And to see him kind of go back on the progress that he's made so far was definitely heartbreaking to see. But man, when the snake oil merchant shows up, that feeling of your heart sinks a little bit, because you don't know what's going to go down. I love that feeling. And to go into the Hank experimenting part, like I got double got, to be honest. I don't know about you guys. So he sets it all up, and the snake oil merchant's kind of laughing as he's slowly cranking it up. So I'm like, okay, so this is going to work.
Yep.
And then we get the classic shot of the camera panning away into that where we're assuming that it's going to blow up, and it doesn't. And I was like, shit, they got me twice in a span of like 30 seconds, because I was like, it's going to work. It's not going to work. It's going to work. So I thought they did a really good job of that. And Hank just continuing to be just so sinister, man. I freaking love him. Just, again, we don't really know what the devices are going to be ultimately used for. Like we have the assumptions that it's just to kind of make maybe overseeing the new world a little bit easier. You can just control people, but obviously they play a part in the flashback as well. So still figuring all that out, but to see it finally come together, and I'm the scenes we've seen of Hank have only been like a minute or two, and I've been loving them. But now that the device is like actually working and functional, to see what the next step of that is going to be now is going to be so fun and probably so messed up. Like, how many people is he going to try and get this on? Like you said, Brian, I also had it in my notes too, that I assumed because he was a ghoul, his body is maybe a little bit more durable, or, his brain isn't maybe all there. So it's not as affected as the amplifying power of the mind control device. But yeah, when the snake oil merchant shows up, he's clean dressed in that hotel room, and he's just like, "Hey guys, what's up?" You see and how the smaller device too on the back of his neck. You definitely, your ears perk up. You're like, this is going to be a good scene right here, and it was really emotional.
Yeah, that's an interesting part too. Is like, why did this work on the snake oil salesman? And part of me was thinking maybe it's because he was willing to have his mind erased. He's been living in the wasteland.
Okay,
It's a
that's
terrible
true.
experience for him, no matter what.
So you have to, like, a
And
part of you has to be convinced,
yeah,
like, you don't want to resist it basically at all. Like, you just want to
yeah,
embrace it.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
yeah. I'm not saying that's what it is, but it seemed kind of like he
Right.
was easier to, bend to his ways by, you know, kind of being willing to let this happen to him. Because everyone else, I guess, only one other person has been used as far as we know.
Yeah.
And he obviously didn't want to take any part, had no idea what's going on. As far as the
Right.
mice are concerned, or the rats that they used, who knows? I don't know why it didn't work on them, but yeah, it could be just the effects of being in the wasteland too long. I mean, I'm thinking maybe his best targets will be those people who just have been out there
And just to actually
for their lifespan.
confirm this, the snake oil merchant, like, is 100% a ghoul. Like, because honestly, when I was watching it, I honestly kind of forgot his backstory, and in my head, I was just kind of thinking he's more of like more closer to the junkie side of things, like maybe not like ghoul drugs or whatever the ghouls take to become ghouls, but just the fact that his body has just ingested a million drugs, and that's what's preventing it. Again, these are all just theory crafting. We have three options right now, it seems like.
Now that you're mentioning it, I don't think the show has at any point spoon-fed us the fact that he is a ghoul. He kind of looks the part, but I made an assumption there to say that he was a ghoul. So you might be right. He might just be
Comments can let us know. Comments are always good.
A little junkie that's worse for wears. But I did make that assumption.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't under the impression he was a ghoul, because we haven't seen him like taking anything, or like his skin or anything has been falling off. He does have kind of like eyeshadow on. It looks a little dirty,
and he's pale, but
and
it's not
he's
like
obviously he's obviously on drugs or something. But I think he's just more crazy than anything else.
Okay.
But I mean, who knows? It could be.
Honestly, I think I would like that better if it's more like a psychological thing. Maybe you just can't resist. And that would explain why Hank asked him, hey, are you cool to just forget all your memories and succumb to this? So that would make a lot more sense. Okay, I'm glad we talked that out, though.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on from that, I mean, the ghoul takes a deal, seemingly tries to knock out Lucy, but while she's kind of fumbling around and about to pass out, the merchant leaves. She puts on that power fist and socks the ghoul right in the, I don't know, chest, whatever, launches him out the window, and homie gets impaled.
Yeah.
So, like, and the one question I had is, like, what is the level of survivability, or just... like what what can the ghouls take?
100%. I was thinking the same thing.
He's gonna live. And I was watching with Emily and she was like, well, how do they die? And I was like, I mean, the good old chop the head off. We'll have to do it. That's how you kill anything. But like anything short of that, I think they can kind of just come back from it. Cause we saw Thaddeus take the arrow to the neck and he was fine. It just kind of like absorbed it and regenerated the skin. So I think the ghoul is going to be fine, notwithstanding that he is impaled on like a 15-foot spike. So he can't get himself out of that situation just by like will alone. So I think someone's going to have to help him out.
Yeah. Really quickly, I just want to say that I was having those same exact thoughts. Have we seen ghoul, like the ghoul has healed, like we have seen physically his flesh like reattach confirmed?
Maybe not his specifically, but like I said, Thaddeus, when he got the arrow through the neck in season 1, his skin like definitely regenerated, but his nose also fell off and just kind of like didn't grow back.
So I don't know if he's going to be walking around with a hole. He definitely is feeling every bit of it without a doubt. It's just a matter of, how long is he going to, like, is he going to have a hole in him? Like you said, how is he going to even remove himself from this situation unless he has outside help or just destroys his body in the process? I guess we really haven't seen the full capabilities of ghoul healing powers. But yeah, I don't think this is obviously the end for him. But yeah,
my assumption is if it's not like a vital part of your body, like the heart or the head, you'll be fine. But I mean, like, there's definitely got to be limitations through generation, because like the feral ghouls that Lucy kills in, I think it was the second episode of this season.
Yes.
When they're finally arriving in New Vegas, like she shoots some of them just like straight in the chest, and I think they die right away.
Right.
So I'm not really sure, and maybe because they're feral, they don't have the same kind of regeneration capabilities. I'm not really sure how it works. But my assumption is if it's not a vital, I guess those are vital organs in the stomach, but if it's not a vital like the heart or the mind, anything that you need to function as a human being, like pumping the blood and everything. Well, I guess he's not a human, he's a ghoul. But anyway, if it's not those, my assumption is he's fine.
Yeah.
And I think we did see him like regenerate a little bit when, like, if you call back to season 1 when he's in Philly, I think he gets shot a couple times.
I think so.
And it's like,
okay, yeah,
that's when we kind of find out like he can just take bullets because he's a ghoul. So I think he regenerates from those. It might just be like wounds we haven't seen, like we saw with Thaddeus.
And we know that Coop's ghoul, the ghoul, has been around hundreds of years versus these other ghouls. So he's definitely ingested way more of the ghoul drug or whatever it is that makes him this way. And I don't know if that has built up his tolerance to be able to take hits like this. Like I imagine if we were to throw just a ghoul who transformed, maybe a couple days ago onto this poll, it probably wouldn't be the same outcome. But we're theory crafting here. At the end of the day, we all can agree that he is going to live. It's just a matter of how is he going to remove himself from this obstacle.
So, and that might be another point of clarity. Thaddeus definitely got injected with whatever the merchant gave him, but most ghouls, maybe Chase, you know the answer, is that not just a symptom of like radiation exposure and constantly like eating food that's
radiated?
Partially,
yeah.
Okay.
I honestly would say some of the ghouls, like the feral ghouls especially, like they're probably very old. I can't imagine that they became that way like
in weeks or something.
Even over like a decade or two. I can't imagine. I mean, I don't know how fast the radiation works, but to become feral, like,
true.
There's one guy we see early on in season 1 who's feral, and Coop's talking to him, and he knows him, and so they probably go way back. Could be 100 years.
Do we know?
But it definitely takes time.
It's the medicine that the ghoul takes that is keeping his sanity. Like there's a reason, like that's the reason why the ghoul hasn't gone feral yet, is because he has that specific medicine that he's always taking, right? Okay. I'm on the right track now. Yeah. Okay. I got it now.
The Radaway.
Radaway.
Yeah, there you go. So he's got his little inhaler. Okay, that's some good clarity on the mechanics here of the ghoul, or just ghouls in general. But other than that, I don't know. Hank arrives and kind of, because Lucy does eventually pass out, and seemingly Hank now has everything he wants. The ghoul is indisposed. He gets Lucy anyway, and I'm assuming that instead of the ghoul taking her back to the original vault, Hank's just going to take her and hunker down with her at the new Vault Tech facility. So that is kind of the assumption there, but that kind of wraps up that storyline. So why don't we get into some of this flashback stuff?
Well, let me actually.
Dave, did you have something?
You got me thinking for a second here. So if Hank ultimately wanted to keep Lucy in Vegas, if the ghoul had the ghoul was planning to. So, okay, let me start from scratch. Hank's offer was to have the ghoul escort Lucy back to her vault. You made the assumption that Hank is going to keep her in Vegas. So that kind of contradicts what the offering was. But I'm not saying this to call you out. I'm more so bringing it up as like, either option, I guess, is on the table. Does Hank genuinely want to just bring her back to the vault, or is he going to keep her around? It's just contradicting if he does keep her there in what he offered the ghoul. But again, Hank is a smart man, and there was definitely a reason for this proposition and for him showing up. It also confirmed for us. I don't know if we ever got it fully established. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I guess he did say to the call to Robert House that he was in Vegas, but to him showing up, to how he showed up there very quickly. He must have been right around the corner. So we are now under the assumption that he has been operating underground in Vegas, maybe not in the building that I had called out last episode, but he is at least underground.
I would agree.
Yeah. So what I would say is it's revealed kind of in the Norm storyline why he wants to send Lucy back to the vault. Or at least I'm reading into why he wants to send Lucy back to the vault. And so I think because of the situation where Lucy punches him with the fist, the power fist, I think was what it's called, and he's impaled, Hank now has to intervene and kind of take her in to his vault as like the other option for saving her or getting his plan done. And so I think we'll see her, held captive in there from here on out.
Okay.
held
captive. That's an interesting way to put it too.
I guess it's like Stockholm syndrome. She might be, she has to decide for herself whether she's being held captive or not.
I was honestly,
but she definitely won't be allowed to leave.
I was honestly waiting for her as she was kind of passing out to kind of say like dad or something, to kind of give us that maybe Lucy still views him as like a good father, but she kind of just ends up passing out. But I was waiting for that moment of her maybe having that Stockholm syndrome of, this is my dad here who's come to save me,
Yeah, I don't know. And it's, as far as getting her back to the vault, clearly whatever Hank is up to is going to go down in Vegas. So getting her just like as far away from there geographically would be preferable. And not for nothing, the ghoul is like the best bodyguard around. So having him as an escort would ensure she gets back there safely. And also there is the matter of like, it wouldn't just be a swap 1-for-1, the ghoul's family for Lucy, because there's also the aspect of maybe he doesn't want to wake them up from cryo and deal with that complication. Maybe something goes wrong in the unfreezing process, or maybe he just doesn't want to even invite the ghoul into that situation. Maybe he wants to keep that leverage of having them in the cryo under his watch over the ghoul. So there's a lot of reasons why he wouldn't just say 1-for-1, give me Lucy, I'll give you the family, and just wants to get her to protection back in the California vault.
Yeah.
That's all I got. All right, we ready to move on here?
I would say the priority is to get her underground, not necessarily.
Okay, yeah.
Back to California vault.
I like that.
Like in a fallout shelter, essentially.
Underground. That's so. What do you think? Hank's gonna drop another nuke?
Well, we can get to that when we talk about the
yeah. Oh, I can't wait to hear what you think. That's why I come to the podcast, man. All right, so you know what? Why don't we save the flashback stuff for last, and we can hit this Norm and the Buds storyline. So Norm and the Buds arrive at a Vault Tech facility, which I guess was like the Vault Tech facility that we kind of see in the flashbacks where like Hank was the admin assistant, whatever. It's all boarded up, and we actually see some familiar faces from season 1, the shopkeepers from Philly, who are in there squatting but also raising a roach farm. And these two were just hilarious. So that was some good, much needed comic relief, but it's also kind of a continuity to give Norm some information about Lucy, because they obviously cross paths. And of course, the shopkeepers are saying, listen, last I saw her, she was heading out into the wasteland. Like, that girl is deader than dead right now. And Norm, doesn't believe it, whatever. But that's kind of the information he gets. Not too much to go over there. I think the meat of this storyline is when kind of the buds go deeper into the facility and they find Barb's desk, and Norm's able to kind of finagle in there, and Ronnie overhears this conversation between Norm and Claudia. I thought it was interesting that kind of Claudia's backstory, we already knew that she kind of signed up for this a week ago in her time, but she's also said, like, I thought it was all going to hit me at once, but I'm still kind of going through it. Not only that, but she clocks. She's like, yeah, Norm, I kind of, like, you're not Bud's bud. Like, come on, let's, cards on the table. I see right through you. And don't worry, like, I'm cool about it, like, whatever. But like, these other guys are fanatics. Like, they put all of their eggs into Bud's basket. If they find out that you're playing them, they're going to be pissed off. And sure enough, we kind of see that come to a head this episode. Norm is investigating Barb's old computer, which, Chase, I'm assuming that's where kind of your theory crafting is coming from. But Ronnie overhears that Norm is full of crap and he tries to strangle him out. So all of that, have at it.
I'll let Chase go first. Yeah.
Well, as I said, I have a theory, and when Norm's looking into the real purpose of future enterprise ventures, he finds out it is not about any ventures in the future. It is about a forced evolutionary virus. And I paused to read the text because I wanted to see what it said. I was trying to see if they would give it to us, but they kind of cut some of it out. All it says on that screen is the forced evolutionary virus is the gene altering agent for something organism supercharging. The following is and then it cuts off. So from my assumption, Hank is cooking up some kind of like biological weapon to basically wipe clean the surface so that Vault Tech and Bud's buds and everyone else can kind of come up and finally start new with new civilization, new society, and get rid of everything that's already been happening, because whatever's happening now isn't working. And we saw like Hank in the past, like he's destroyed Shady Sands because what they had wasn't perfect. It wasn't what, Bud's buds and what Hank imagined. And so if everyone's not going to destroy themselves so they can start new, Hank will destroy everyone so they can start new.
I love that. I love that theory. And as you were kind of talking, I, in my head, am putting together my own theory, which when I was watching the episode, how I took it was, so we're all on the same page that future enterprise venture is just just like a code name for what actually is going on, right? Like there is no actual future enterprise venture. It's all FEV, which is the forced evolutionary. Okay. My mindset when we see the forced evolutionary virus on the screen, my mind immediately thinks of, we are somehow getting humans to become death claws, and then the mind control devices would be put on the death claws, and we just fucking run rampant. And it kind of matches up with what you're saying, Chase, too. Like if the death claws don't have any thoughts in their heads and they can't, think of wanting to resist the machine, they kind of just embrace it because they're so mindless. Like this is a Hail Mary. This is all stuff I just literally was thinking as we're coming on the podcast. But I definitely, the one thing I thought while watching was that the forced evolutionary virus was related to the death claw. That is definitely at least something that I had assumed, but the rest of it was all put together on the pod.
I had that theory as well. It seems a little too out there for me
Yes.
to believe that he can drop presumably a bomb and maybe it releases a gas that turns some demographic of people into a death claw. That seems like a lot.
And the
However, if we are going along with that theory, I would just change your timeline. Instead of turning people to death claws and then putting the chip on them, I think what Hank would probably try to do is put the chip on humans and
then
then turn them
evolve
to
them.
death claws.
Interesting.
Or
Okay.
perhaps maybe the chip on the humans is what makes them able to survive whatever the weapon is and then turn them to death claws. See,
Okay.
it's the wording of the forced evolutionary. Do you take it as what Chase was saying, like the evolution is everybody who's currently on the surface
Right.
dies and the winners of the evolution are the vault dwellers who can come up and build anew? Or is it this biological weapon that forces evolution on the population that's already out there? Either way, I mean, the intent has to be that Hank and Robert House, whoever is pulling the strings right now, but besides the Hank, wants to control whatever population is the victor of all this.
And one other thing to poke a hole into my theory with is that obviously the death claws look nothing like humans. So that it definitely was a stretch for me, but just the first thought that I had. So I just wanted to put that on the podcast. If it does come true, I'll take all the credit in the world.
You know, I like that theory. I wouldn't say it's out of the question. You know, it could. I think, you know, if you read along the lines of an evolutionary virus, like it could be genetic mutation in some sort of capacity that changes human beings, maybe not killing them.
Mhm.
My assumption was he just wants to kill everybody so he can get up there with all the vault dwellers and they can restart society as, like, you know, more civilized people, or at least from Hank's perspective, they're more civilized. Um, but no, there's still some elements, you know, things that are in the Fallout universe that we haven't seen that I think maybe could relate to that.
Mhm.
But I will stay silent for now.
Thank you, SME, for staying silent on that one.
There you go.
Last couple comments I had about Norm's buds was it ever revealed that did we know that Barb was Bud's overseer? I think we did, right? Like Barb was the superior of Bud, and then we also see the photo, which I thought was Barbara's daughter Jenny, right?
Yeah, I think that was
Okay,
Janie.
okay, Jenny, yeah.
I don't think it was explicitly said, and I think Barb tried to play it at least in front of Coop that she wasn't as important in Vault Tech than she actually was. But I think this episode, someone referred to her as like an executive level person.
Yes.
So she was that big of a deal. And Bud in the season 1 flashbacks was kind of pitching to Coop as someone who was on the up and up, but maybe hadn't quite made it. So I think with all of that information, we can assume that Barb was above him. And also in the flashback that we're about to get to, like, Barb was the one representing Vault-Tec. Well, one of several people representing Vault-Tec's interests at this Las Vegas meeting. So I think that's a safe assumption.
Cool.
Yeah, there was a couple times where Bud tried to kind of sweet talk Coop, maybe to impress Barb's husband, so he could get some, you know, brownie points from Coop's side. But Coop wasn't having it. So, you know, I think, yeah, it seemed like they might have been equals, but I think Barbara was definitely his superior in some capacity. And like you said, Brian, she's definitely trying to kind of dumb down her involvement with everything, especially when she's talking with Coop.
Oh, there was also poor Janice, the desk assistant who was just getting shit on in the afterlife. You know, they all they all coming in, they're like, Janice just still at her desk, classic. And then they also had a little subtlety of, I think one of the buds had mentioned like, oh, I wish I could craft a weapon right now, and that was something that made me like, okay, video game, like I get that. I'm sure, you know, I haven't played Fallout, but I'm assuming there's a crafting system in Fallout. You can craft weapons and whatnot. So I thought that was a nice, quick little subtle shout out that even someone who hasn't played the games could definitely pick my ears up to.
Absolutely. And I mean, a couple times in this game, I think Norm tried to defend himself just by picking up a lamp, and the guy you were just talking about picked up like a fan or something. And like that kind of stuff's just always around.
Yeah, he picks up the fan and he's like, oh, we need to craft a weapon with this. I'm like, yeah, this is so cool.
And at least in Fallout 4, you could pretty much pick up anything.
Yeah, you can. I think in Fallout 4, it's like more advanced that you have like a workbench where you can like upgrade your weapons, craft items. You can like store your power armor and work on your power armor, cool stuff like that.
If I was like really into that kind of stuff, like Fallout 4 has a game within the game aspect to it where you can like build up your it's not a village, but
Settlements.
your settlements. Like there
Dude.
really is a lot to it. It's pretty cool.
There's a reason I put 200 hours into that game.
Yeah. There it is. Yeah,
I tried to build up every settlement I could, and this was like we were in college at the time when I was playing this, but I was just like, I would take my breaks and I'd be like, all right, time to build a settlement over here.
Yeah,
different times. All right, so that will take us to these awesome flashback
Let's get
scenes,
into it.
which is really just when the ghoul is feeling himself in present day, like getting drunk at the bar. But yeah, I mean, our first scene, we get one of these cool commercials, which is just setting the landscape. And it's essentially all of the major private sector companies. That's going to be Robco, Big Mountain, West Tech, and Vault Tech are meeting in Vegas. And the way it's spun in this commercial or advertisement is essentially to decide the interests of America against the communists, which this whole show has been poking fun out of it. But like this episode was really throwing it in our face. It's the private sector, the capitalistic interests that are really deciding global affairs rather than our politicians. And, you can make of that what you will. And I'll fast forward a little bit. It was a big slap in the face when the congresswoman who we saw 2 episodes ago was literally being thrown out of the casino like a lame duck, saying, "No, I'm a congresswoman. I deserve a voice in this." And they literally toss her down the steps. So that is kind of the status quo that we are dealing with here in the Fallout universe. But Barb and Coop land. Young Hank McClane is there, and the first time right here is when we see this briefcase that he is handling that is handcuffed to him. We don't find out what's in it, but clearly something important. I think he even jokes like, "Oh yeah, I'm an assassination target. Haha, I'm really getting important." So he's just happy-go-lucky Hank. Barb doesn't really seem to know what Coop is up to, but Coop kind of has an aside where he has a conversation with Moldaver in the phone booth where she is just trying to remind him of the plan and, quell his nerves. And Coop finally lays down his morals, whatever you want to say. And he says, "You know what? I'm going to protect our interests and I'm going to try and stop whatever deal is going on, but I'm not going to kill a man to do it. I'm just not going to." And boy, howdy, I am glad that he said that with the future knowledge of Robert House knows exactly what he's up to and just has eyes in the sky 24/7. He's like omnipresent. He can see everything, hear everything. And I just assumed this guy knows every piece of information that's out there. So yeah, this is cool. And then they go to the casino and we're met with the Securitron and he's kind of going through. And then we see, I said earlier this season that I thought they recasted Robert House as actor, but that is not the case. Robert House has a proxy or a stand-in, a stunt double, whatever you want to say, who just speaks on his behalf and makes appearance. And this guy kind of goes over to Coop and says, "Hey, Rob House wants to see you." There's a lot of oohs and ahs that this guy is Robert House, but then he takes him up to the layer of the real Robert House. And this is where we get this awesome conversation. So before we get into that, is there anything that I missed, like a detail that you guys want to get into?
I don't think so, personally. I'm looking at my notes here, and the only thing I have to say is I just feel like such an idiot. I think someone in our Discord or someone, YouTube comment, maybe it was, had informed us that in episode 1 that the Robert House that we saw on the TV wasn't the Robert House that was obviously watching it. And looking back, that was awesome. But at the time when I was watching that, I did not put that together. I just assumed it was kind of like a rerun and Robert House was like watching himself. And then even in the last episode recording, I was team, oh, Coop definitely recognized Robert House. He knew who that was right away. So this was like an amazing moment for me in terms of like, it took me way too long to process all of that stuff. And to see it here and Coop's reaction of having the double was like awesome to me. So for that moment, they got me, man. I wasn't paying we have a podcast and I wasn't paying attention enough to point that out, but I thought that was makes Robert House an even better villain too, because it just shows how thorough and like planned and prepped he is for anything. He just doesn't want his face out there because in the business I'm sure that he's in, he's made a lot of enemies and he doesn't need that his face plastered everywhere, his actual face plastered everywhere. So just a great job by Fallout. I was got, and shout out. I'm sorry if I'm looking through the Discord, it wasn't there, so the YouTube comment I can't find it either. But whoever it was, thank you for bringing that realization to the pod.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think also in episode 1, like we go back to the flashback scenes and they show everybody in that room with House, and then they show Barb kind of like looking up to somebody, you know, in the rafters. And initially I thought, well, what if that is this guy who is Robert House?
Yes.
But I was like, that doesn't make any sense, because why would he be up there but also have somebody who is supposed to be him down there?
Dude.
I was like, it just doesn't make sense to me. But this does make sense, that guy was really just a proxy the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you caught it, but when he walks up to Coop, he says, "Mr. House would like to see you."
Yes. Okay. Yes. And yes.
Mr. House. So I was referring to him the way he likes to be referred to.
You called it, man. You had it. You had it right.
So Mr. House, okay, that's going to be the nomenclature going forward. Robert House is a no-no. I guess we don't really know him like that. We're not on a first name basis with him, so how dare we? No, that's fair.
True.
Let's get into the meat, baby.
It's cool. We had a cool scene, and he's a casino owner. He's, like you were saying, Dave, he knows everything. He's got to crunch all the numbers for his business, but also he's taking it to the extreme. He wants to do it to, crunch the numbers to know what's going on in the world and discover all these things. So I think we get like a really deep version of an idea of who he is as a person. And I think, Brian, you're saying this earlier, like you kind of flip back and forth where you're thinking he's kind of a lunatic and crazy, but in this scene, he really shows like he is concerned with, the end of the world. And he also is very meticulous and very smart guy, and not just, crazy and has a ton of money. But I think he's also putting on a little bit of a show for Coop, because, Coop's there and he's got to seem normal to him after he's already showed up in the bathroom and approached him. So.
Well, that was a great introduction, because Coop's like, wait, seriously, the guy from the toilet? And Mr. House is just like, well, I was just so excited to meet you. And he lays his cards on the table immediately. And he's like, and it's not because I know that you're here to kill me. That's why you came to Vegas. And he goes on this spiel. It was, I didn't even finish this season of Westworld because that's where things started to suck. But the big event in season 3 of Westworld, when they get out of the park, is that there's a machine that runs algorithms that can essentially tell everybody's future and can dictate the future, And kind of those were the vibes I was getting from Mr. House here. He says, I always want to know what's going on. It's advantageous. The house always wins, all of this stuff. But he says that's kind of how he stays ahead. He's like, that's how I know to really time the markets and get in and buy these valuable assets, in this case Fusion Core from Vault-Tec, at right the perfect time, right before it blows up. So that's how he made his fortune. I think that is
Cold
just
Fusion. Sorry.
Cold Fusion, excuse me.
Yeah.
No, thank you. That's why you're here. Hey. But among other reasons. But no, what better trait can you have from a villain? Like you said, I'm kind of wavering, but we're definitely supposed to think he's a villain, than someone who can literally tell the future and has algorithms that are kind of pointing him towards like the most advantageous thing for him. And I mean, it's the most perfect thing in the world that his name is House, but like his shtick, his mantra is the house always wins. And like the whole algorithm, like they're really building him up as a formidable villain who is not only just like, maybe he's a little crazy, but he's got the brains to back it up. So I appreciated all of this, but the conversation turns to him saying, so the interesting thing about this algorithm, with the Cold War going on, us versus Russia, I was, one day the algorithm spat out the date of the end of the world. And he asked Coop, I think it was April 14th, 2065. Does that date mean anything to you? And Coop says, well, that's my daughter's birthday. And House is kind of like, well, isn't that interesting? And something else, the minute that you purchased your plane ticket to come to Vegas, that date got kicked back by 1 month. And he essentially
moved up 1 month.
Moved up by
Yes,
1 month.
yes.
Excuse me. Moved up by 1 month. And this is where it started to get good, because he's kind of trying to level with Coop. He's like, hey, you could tell I'm a guy that always knows what's going on. So you can imagine how frustrating it is when there is a variable that I am losing track of. And Coop is trying to spin it like, oh, you're acting so high and mighty, but like you're plotting the end of the world. Like you're arming Vegas with this missile system. And my boss, the person that sent me here to kill you, says that when the missiles start flying, you're going to be the one to press the button. This is what I was not expecting. House says, no, I'm actually trying to defend Vegas from whatever's out there. I can tell you a lot of things. The world is going to end. My algorithm has predicted as much, but it is not going to be anybody at this Las Vegas meeting. It's not going to be Vault-Tec, Mount Co, Robco, excuse me, Big Mount, or Westco. And that is what is eating away at Mr. House. He says, I think that there is an unknown player who is pulling the strings. And that is the role that I fancy for myself. So you can imagine the inconvenience. And he's got one of those calculated demeanors. It's kind of like watching Gus from Breaking Bad or from The Boys. He's like keeping his cool, but you can tell he's internally losing it. Like, there is something that I do not know, and it is driving him nuts. So this entire scene, it was so much good stuff. And this is just causing a whirlwind for Coop, who kind of just had his eyes all locked in on Mr. House as the bad guy. I need to stop him from making a deal with Vault-Tec, and I will save the world. And I'm getting through the exposition. I'll let you guys theorize, but I'm thinking to myself, is Mr. House just a really good liar? And what we were led to believe in the beginning is the actuality, that he is in cahoots with Vault-Tec and has his finger on the button that'll destroy the world? Or is he telling the truth? Is he just a survivalist that is looking out for himself? He understands that the end of the world is inevitable, and he is just looking for contingency plans for himself. And he does sprinkle in at some point, hey, my goals are to live forever. But he says, so that I can protect Vegas and my interests here. So all of that was amazing, amazing character building for Mr. House, whether he's full of shit or not. I thought it was great. I thought it was so great, this conversation between him and Coop. So what say you, Chase, then Dave?
Yeah, so we have a lot more questions after this scene, really. It's like we thought we were going to get to the answers, right away, but now we're starting to get even closer to who is involved, and it looks like Barbara is somehow maybe responsible for the bombs dropping, like almost directly.
Mm-hmm.
She's obviously working with someone. As I mentioned, there's someone that she kind of looks up to when they're in that secret meeting. That's kind of, you can see the shadow of a person, and whoever that is pulling the strings. And so we kind of get that confirmed here that it's not House. He's really just trying to protect Vegas, protect his own interests long term. And this is a tough scene for Coop to really, or situation for Coop to really handle here. And it's very shocking, and I think the calls of House is kind of like bringing out to the point that like Coop is an unknown variable that he can't account for. And so Coop's own actions actually are impacting the date that the bombs drop, according to the simulation. And so that's even crazier for him, is it's like, has he been doing the wrong things the whole time? Is this all his fault? Like he's leading to this happening? And so, there's some questions there too, is like, what's going to happen with Coop? What is he going to do? Is it a conversation that he has with Barbara? Is it, somewhere along the line, something goes wrong? And I know, if you think back to like episode 1, he's with Janie at someone else's birthday party. And I think it was Janie's birthday as well that day, because I remember then Janie asking like, can we have some cake too? And he was like, yeah, we'll get some cake, like come over here and we'll eat it out of sight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of when the bomb drops. And so the fact that he knew that was going to happen the whole time makes it even crazier, like looking back, that he was at someone else's birthday party with his kid on the day that he was told would be the end of the world. So that's even like more insane. Yeah, this is just a great scene. I mean, Mr. House he's just living up to the hype for sure. And I love the scene for Coop because we've kind of like going to the future and then coming back in the scenes with him. We've kind of seen like his change of heart. Like maybe he's going to do the right thing. Maybe he decides he's not going to do the right thing. And we keep getting teased that like he's going to become the good guy and save the day, and it just doesn't happen. It just can't happen.
Guys, I'm going to be honest. This might have been my favorite scene in the series so far. I mean, from you reciting everything back, B-Toms, and like the hypeness you were delivering with it, like I was getting chills just from thinking about the moments. I feel like we could have literally sat down and done a separate recording just on this scene alone. That would be an hour. You know, we're already at that hour mark, so unfortunately, I'll try and make this as quick as I can. But God, there was just so much stuff to digest in this scene, and all of it was just amazing. I mean, from the computer or whatever it is that Robert House has, that this calculator that can predict events, unbelievable. And the fact that Coop himself is a player in it, and just him buying a ticket alone had the computer move up the date a month, like that's crazy. Like what other things are we going to be doing in the flashback that are going to either move up the date, move back the date? I like that you brought up Chase, because I was going to bring it up as well, that the day the bombs drop, we're definitely, I think, on Janny's birthday. And we already know, like Howard's House, Dr. House, Mr. House. See, I'm so excited. I can't even formulate thoughts right now. It's just, I just want to talk about it all. But, you know, just the direction of this character was, I did not see this coming in the slightest. I mean, the first thing I want to say is the cold fusion we already had known he wanted to use to stay alive indefinitely. But I think the caveat to that was that he would have to be in a robotic form. Was that what it was? Is that what they specifically said? Like he wouldn't be a human really anymore.
He did say something to that effect. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm expecting to see, when we see Robert House in the present, I'm almost under the assumption that he's going to be like an android. Like I don't think he's going to look like the cowboy robot. I already forget his name that we saw. Like it won't be that Victor. It won't be to like Victor lengths of a robot, but you know, I'm thinking of like Dr. Gero from Dragon Ball, like looks like a human, but just isn't a human. Maybe you'll be able to see that he is made of metal. But I'm definitely thinking that Robert House is already probably in the phase of being a robot or in that process. Second thing that I wanted to bring up as well is the fact that Dr. House, I keep saying Dr. House, Mr. House.
Great show, by the way.
Yes. I don't know why.
Great show.
I don't know why that keeps popping into my head right now. But yes, he delivers Coop his, selfish idea of wanting to protect or preserve himself. But at the end of the day, it is under his mind to protect Las Vegas, and kind of gets into that like whole nationalistic thing that I've been bringing up subtly. I know obviously Vegas isn't national level, but on a small scale, like we are seeing that we're leaving this all in, but Mr. House, he cares about Vegas, or at least has led us to believe and did a good job selling us on that he does want to protect Vegas, and that is what he's ultimately wanting to do here. Not something that I had ever expected to hear him say. I was under the assumption that it would just be all greedy, just for monetary purposes. Again, this feels like a scene that you could legitimately put into like a college lecture and just be like, hey, dissect the scenes, like the emotions, the lying, like everything. It just feels like it was that good of a scene. Both actors did a phenomenal job. And last thing I'll say is to go into another player responsible, the third party, or fifth party, if we want to call it at this point. Dr. House specifically says that this party is responsible for the demon in the snow. And did I say it again? I didn't even catch myself. That is amazing. That is so funny.
We were just going to let you just continue.
Oh, I was ready. And I saw you guys smiling. I was like, I must have said Dr. House. But the demon in the snow and that party is going to be directly responsible for the ones ending the world. And just a cherry on top to this whole conversation, because again, Moldaver has told us in the past that House is going to be responsible for pushing the button. We've also been seeing from Coop's side that he thinks his wife's going to be the one that pushed the button. I just love this, man. This genuinely was my favorite scene of the whole series. That could be some recency bias, but I wanted to rewatch the scene like so many times. It just felt like everything that they said was just such good information for where we're headed in the show. I absolutely loved it. I can't say enough good things about this scene.
Yeah, and I just want to add to what you said. There's the only variable that we really haven't seen in regards to like what is this mystery party is really what the US government is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so watching the show, I'm thinking like this has to be the government. Like who else is there at this point? Like there's nobody else that we've been introduced to, no like characters. We just know the government exists, obviously. And so, you know, that has led me to kind of theorize about who it could be. And so I do have a theory that I won't say who it is, who I think it is, but there is one major player that we have been introduced to on the show.
Okay.
Very briefly. And my bet is on them being responsible.
I like the vagueness. I'm not even going to think about
if you
trying to
rewatch the whole show.
I'm not trying to
figure it out. You can.
I'm going to just let that
weeks
sit in the back of my head. I'm not even going to think about the season 1 and try and figure out who it was. But if that's the case, I would love that. If it's someone that we've already been introduced to, that is just going to be such an excellent twist, I think.
It makes a lot of sense to me the way I see it going. But, you know, there's been so many twists and so many surprises. You never know who's going to be responsible at the end of the day.
What Chase is saying is that it's Congresswoman Welsh who drops the bomb. But no, I think that just goes. I'm sorry, Dave, you brought up the fact that he saw what Coop saw in the Alaskan front, but he says the reason he was able to see that kind of joke. I wasn't there with you. I'm not insane. I licensed, the T-45 software, whatever. So I had access to anything any of the soldiers wearing the bodysuit saw. That just speaks to how he gathers the information. Information is power, and he's omnipresent. He sees all, he hears all. I'm starting to think if he is trying to sustain life electronically, we already see that the Securitrons exist in the flashbacks. Maybe he is hive-minding the Securitrons in present day, like in the Wasteland, because, Chase told us, and I think we've seen at least 2 different Securitron robots. Maybe he can access that. I agree with you. Like, I don't think he's still kicking it in his biological Mr./Dr. House body. Like, I think he's going to be some level of an android. So why wouldn't he be able to access that? And I think it was a very full circle moment, and maybe a little bit of foreshadowing that right when he gets up the elevator and opens the door to see Mr. House for the first time, he is greeted by Victor right there. And it's a little bit of what the ghoul was saying, me and Victor go way back, but it might also be a wink by the writers. Maybe the ghoul doesn't even know it, wink, wink, this Victor might be a little bit more. Or maybe he's just Victor and he's all over the place and he's a lovable face and a lovable character. Who knows? But
sorry, I would say the first thing we see Victor in the show, I'm pretty sure he even mentions I know you had something to do with that cold fusion back in the day. Yeah. So now we see how Victor knows this, which is crazy that he's actually there. Yeah.
Well, it's so good, man. Your face is just nonstop smiling because this has been so fucking good to talk about and just hear your guys' thoughts.
I will tie my thoughts at least together by saying this. He was saying, I think the same player responsible for the monster in Alaska is going to be this same unknown player that might potentially drop the bombs. And this quote is so good. The house always wins, but what if I'm not the house?
Yeah. What if you're not,
and
bro?
Again, I love that he admits to Coop. He's like, you can see how this is frustrating to me. This is an inconvenience to me. The guy that has everything in the world, all the information, all the power, all the influence, there's still something that I can't see. So
at the end of the day, House is a villain. We've seen him kill innocent people to get what he wants, but it's a show where we've seen that you are sometimes forced into predicaments where you have to adapt, you have to survive. And again, the big overarching theme of this all is if you know the world is going to end, you know, what would be a few lives versus the lives of the entire population, you know? It's just so good. House is definitely a villain to me in my mind. Maybe not as dark of a villain as we originally thought, and by dark I mean, you know, not just so like obviously villainous. Like he obviously has some depth to him, and that was just the surprise that for his character that I absolutely loved. I had already loved Robert House just being pure villain, but to see this side of him and
Yeah.
have the compassion, at least a little bit of compassion for Vegas, took me by surprise, man.
So,
Great.
so do you think the knowledge of the end of the world and when it's going to happen and all this stuff has kind of driven him to lunacy to want to just, control everybody and prepare and kill a few
That
people
is,
if he needs to?
and
Could
I'm
be,
sure
Or do
yeah.
you
I
think
mean,
he
I'm sure
has always been like that?
him knowing the date probably doesn't help it. You know, it's not slowing down the timeline either. Like he's going to be making moves in response to knowing that the timeline is what it is, and if it keeps moving up, you know, because in reaction to maybe him preparing for it, you know, there's just so many factors. And I'm just the big thing, obviously, what I'm wanting to see is like, how does he know this? Is it a machine that is calculating this for him? Is it what is this thing? Like I know he was very vague talking about it. It's just my program or something is I think how he referred to it as, but I would like to see this thing in action and maybe like physically see it changing dates and whatever this thing is, but phenomenal, phenomenal stuff.
dang. Yeah, that was a good one. I don't know. Anything else? Any final burning takes here? I guess I'll give mine. I mean, I can't theorize anybody who would do this, and I can't connect the dots, but I think it would be crazy if Moldaver winds up being the unknown player and she's playing both sides. And
Mhm.
for some reason, she's like trying to spoon feed this better life to all the, the pinkos, the communists, we'll just call that faction. And then maybe her end goal was to just survive and cultivate this following in the wasteland. Like that was always her design, but I don't see it. That's a little out there, and I don't really have the supporting evidence for that theory. So I'm with Chase. I think it might be the government. It's always the government.
Yeah, I don't have any.
Yeah.
I don't want to put my finger on anything yet. Any triggers? I don't know. I really don't know who it is. I like that Moldaver thought though. There was a part of me that believed that she could have been up to all this, especially with how pushy she has been for Coop to kill Robert House and her not even. I guess she has kind of been like the audience in a sense that she has just assumed that Robert House is this total villain that needs to go. And so she's been super pushy about killing him without actually understanding his character. So I like that theory. Excited to see.
Yeah, she doesn't even have full idea of what's going on, and she wants him dead.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
so
So that will be. I think that's a good theory to put on the board. I'm excited to see what Coop is going to mention to his wife. I think the conversation that him and Barb are going to have, and hopefully we get in the next episode. I think that will be a very big discussion in terms of splitting them up and how maybe we see the slow decline of their relationship start with this conversation and this openness. I think Coop will go through with it. I hope he does at least.
Yeah, so do I. And I mean, this conversation between him and Barb is going to be big. Chase is giving us the thumbs up. That means we are nearing the end of the episode. I will open the floor back up. Chase, anything else?
no, I was just giving a thumbs up because this was an awesome episode. I think they did a great job. I don't want to go too long, so my final remarks, similar to what Dave was saying, like I still don't know if I believe that maybe Barb had anything to do with it. Like maybe she's just in the bad situation,
Mhm.
and I don't know, like if Coop knew, because Coop knows, right? We don't know. Coop does, or the ghoul knows, and if he knew that she was actually responsible and it was her doing, and maybe that's why they weren't together because he just decided to ignore it or whatever and just
Mm-hmm.
take Janie out on her birthday. You know, if he knew, I don't think he would be so adamant about like finding her.
Right.
But I do believe like he would. I don't know. It's tough because he would still want to find Janie.
Yeah.
So it puts you in a situation of like if he does know, in this scene that we get in this episode, is that just him admitting that he'll do whatever no matter what? Even like he might have this knowledge that she did drop the bombs, but it's like the things you do for family. no matter
Right.
what.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That would be even crazier.
Mhm.
So I don't know, just a lot to think on.
Definitely. This episode was a banger. There's no way around it. I probably the best of season 2.
Mhm.
Like Dave was saying, this might be the best singular scene of the entire series so far. So clap, clap, clap for episode 5, The Wrangler. I loved it. But yeah, that's going to do it for us. As always, if you like what you heard, hit that follow or subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating here on the Binge Empire podcast. And check us out on our other feeds. Like I said, that's going to be the core. We also have the Unreal podcast and Final Form. That's going to be reality TV and anime, respectively. And you can find us anywhere: Spotify, YouTube, the Apple Podcast app, or wherever else you may find your podcast. Once again, we are Bingetown TV, and thank you so much for listening.